the elephant in the room was, okay, Meredith could die from this. Like, she literally might not come back from this. So it's actually a funny story of how Ken saw me. He actually saw me swing and miss a pitch. But he told me, he said, that was the hardest swing I've ever seen somebody do.
A player that was willing to do whatever it took to win for her teammates. He was a very unselfish type of guy, and it was good to have her on the team. We knew that she was going to progress.
So we were playing at ECU that weekend, and we wear metal cleats, and metal cleats are just overall not good on your back. At night, after the whole celebration of Easter, my back was hurting even more. So Monday morning, I woke up and I had full lower body cramps. Everything was spazzing, everything was tensing up. As the day progressed, everything got worse. Tuesday comes along, I get the MRI. I'm just thinking, okay, again, slip disc, nothing intense. And our athletic trainer, who was Taylor at the time, he said, hey Meredith, Dr. O'Malley called me. We need to go back and see him to look at your MRI results. He pulls up the MRI on the computer, and the first thing I saw was the big ball in my back. He was like, Meredith, this is really hard to say, but you have some type of cancer. This is a tumor, and it was about the size of a baseball.
I didn't know when I got the news. And then she walked in my office and she was like, we're gonna beat this. And I just was taken aback. Maybe she doesn't understand what this is about. And she told me exactly what the story was.
It really drained our energy because I think so much of us were so focused on her and her well-being that it was just an instant energy drainer.
It was a tough day. It was a real tough day. And that was the worst game we played all year, in all honesty. And the game was over, and I went out to my locker in the shed and opened my locker, and on the floor fell a piece of paper, which I still carry in my wallet today, was, Coach, please don't worry. I'll be back. And she came back.
It comforts me and it comforts him. We both know it's gonna be okay, everything's okay. Everything worked out. When you get diagnosed, you want as many opinions as you can get. Duke is kind of my home from Boston, medically wise. They have a great team. My doctor is Dr. Rydell.
Meredith has something called a giant cell tumor of bone. It's an extremely rare tumor. About 1 out of every 1 million people a year are diagnosed with a giant cell tumor of bone. It's exceedingly rare. It will occur in the femur, the tibia. Meredith's case, it occurred in a bone called the sacrum, which is sort of near the tailbone.
Our next step was, okay, his name is Dr. Benedier. Okay, Dr. Benedier, do you know someone else that we could, get some more referrals? So he said, yeah, sure. We have a connection at Massachusetts General Hospital. His name is Dr. Hornacek. So I ended up going to Boston. We talked to them, and Dr. Hornacek, his plan of action was to get proton radiation. And then he said, we're gonna put you on steroids. So that lasted 8 days, but on the 6th day, I think, he said, you know what, let's get another biopsy and we'll take a different angle just to see exactly how we want to approach this with radiation and chemo and surgery. And the results came back and he said, okay, Meredith, you don't have cancer anymore. He said, we don't know why. We're calling you a medical mystery. He said, we think the steroids possibly killed all the cancer cells, but I still had the tumor. So at that point, we're like, okay, that's super exciting. And we were filled with joy. But the next question was, okay, I still have a tumor in my back. How do we get it out? We go back to Boston and we have my surgeries. The first surgery was called embolization. The second surgery was 9 hours, and they opened my back and took 80% of the tumor out and then put in 8 pins and 6 rods. The third surgery was 6 hours, and then scraped out the remaining 20%.
Our assistant coach at that time, Jessica Moore, who's still with us actually, started a GoFundMe page and also started a a rally with the Home Run Derby support locally, but we started getting letters and there was emails and social media aspects.
Kick cancer's butt like you kicked ours. Go there! Keep the faith, keep the fight, and win the battle. We are Meredith Strong.
It was amazing that the support that we started to find, not just locally, but it spread out throughout the whole, and then we started getting stuff overseas. And then people started sending in items to be auctioned off at the fundraiser. That day was a special day. I mean, it was incredible. And Coach Gasso at Oklahoma called me on the phone. She says, you're going to find out how small the world is right now and how supportive the world is. And boy, she hit the nail on the head. It was something I'll never forget.
Hey Meredith, the volleyball team is thinking of you and supporting you, and we're all Meredith Strong.
You know, we can have values on the wall all over the building as we do. We can talk the talk, but when something like this happens, we have to walk the walk. I wasn't surprised by how all our teams responded because I know the DNA of this department would respond to such a thing, but I was so overwhelmed nonetheless to just see it organically spread throughout the department. But what really caught my attention was outside these walls and how softball teams across the country were reaching out. I had athletic directors sending me notes. I had coaches sending me notes. And we all compete so hard against each other, but we also know that at the end of the day, the students are what makes this whole thing work. And when one of them is harmed in any kind of way or going through a fight of her life, you know, they want to rally, they want to help. It was incredibly, incredibly touching to watch.
Shout, 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 booyah, roll call. Her name is Meredith. Yeah. And she is strong. Yeah. And she'll fight cancer. Yeah. Until it's gone. Oh yeah. We're all here fighting for you. UCF is Meredith Strong.
When you get diagnosed with like this disease and you know you have this kind of very, very tough journey ahead of you, you're not going to have good days at all. My family and friends back at home, they were a huge support, so they helped me. And then when I see these teams that supported me, it like lifted my spirits like you couldn't even imagine.
Hey Meredith, it's men's soccer here. We're just wishing you a lot of luck in your fight. We're all rooting for you and you're going to beat this thing. Go Bulls and go 00. Yeah!
Learning to walk was difficult, but before I had to learn to walk, I had to learn how to sit up in bed. And I would take my walking exercises for the day would be 3 to 5 steps. The biggest thing that my body was having trouble with was walking, but it also was going from a sitting to a standing position. My PT, her name was Sarah, I did not like her. I mean, I did, but I didn't. We were just battling with each other. I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this. She's like, yes, you can. And Sarah said, all right, Meredith, we're gonna do this today. I'm like, okay, let's go. And so she said, you used to squat, right? I'm like, yeah, we did back squats, front squats, all that stuff. She said, okay, put the cane behind your neck as if it was a squat rack. I was like, okay. And I literally did a squat and sat down. It only took just a click of my brain to say, oh, I'm used to squatting. Like, we did so many squats, my brain clicked, and it's just like, oh, it's just like you're squatting. You're not sitting down. And so she was like, all right, you used to play softball. Let's toss a ball in the air and see if it works. Literally started tossing a softball back and forth in my hands. But it's just simple things like that that I did in softball and weightlifting that just reminded my brain, hey, you're used to this. Stop trying to overthink everything.
She is one of the most powerful, strongest people that I know, and to say the least, that's the worst person it could have happened to. It was the best person it could have happened to. She went into it just the way she approached everything with a positive attitude, and she knew going in she was going to beat it and come out okay, and that's what she did.
She's an old soul. She was there, and it's bonus time right now, and so the filter of reservation of thinking what you really emotionally feel. She has no problem saying those type of things. She's more aware of her surroundings, and I think, as I said, as you get older, you do the same type of thing. She's a tremendous inspiration to older people that have been around her.
It's nice being back on the field. I love being around the girls still, and they're always like, oh my gosh, Meredith, blah, blah, blah. And it's just nice being around them because, again, they have so much support for me, and like I've built so many relationships, and it's good to be around still. And I'm happy I have a senior day.